Up until a few hours ago, we were really wondering whether or not the President of the United States was going to bomb so heavily in Iran that he would kill a civilization. Now, I know people are saying, well, he didn't mean that. He meant the regime. Isn't that a pretty easy word to distinguish? Destroy the regime versus destroy the civilization? Look, for me, it's a sigh of relief. I don't know how this situation gets any better for America. I don't have any reason to believe that the regime, which is still in place, there's no indication it won't be in place, and it clearly still has weapons, and we don't know anything about its nuclear capabilities. But here's the other factor that matters. What does this mean for the people living under the yoke of the regime's oppression? I want to bring in an Iranian-born human rights activist, all right, Goldie Ghamari, who was just, 1 year old when her family fled Iran after an assassination attempt on her father. Just last month, an Iranian-linked, or really regime-linked hacking group placed a bounty of 250 grand for her head, literally. Goldie joins me now. Thank you very much for taking the opportunity. This is a tricky situation for the American people, okay? You know very well, I don't have to tell you, you understand us and our culture. It is your culture as well. You understand what's going on here. What do you want to say to people who say, we want good things for you, we just don't want to do it this way, and we're afraid of that it never ends, and the regime is still going to be in place? What does this mean to the people that you protect and defend?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. It's an honor to be here. I'm very thrilled. And I'm actually more American than you might think. My dad actually lived in Texas in the 70s
I
for a
know.
decade. He went to Texas Southern University. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Texas is my favorite state. With respect to what's happening right now, I mean, the reality is that the 1979 Islamic coup d'etat basically was successful because of Jimmy Carter and the Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
These are the same Democrats that today are attacking President Trump and trying to justify and defend a brutal Islamic dictatorship that has been murdering Iranians for the last 47 years. I don't know if you know this, but I actually noticed a few days ago, I was monitoring Islamic regime state TV. The Islamic regime was actually using social media posts by Chuck Schumer, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Jon Stewart to attack President Trump and defend what it's doing. So there is a problem within the United States, I would say, with how the Democrats are attacking President Trump, and they're basically being useful idiots for the Islamic regime.
Well,
now, with respect to what's happening, yeah.
Well, hold on, Goldie. Let's go one point at a time. Here's the other side of it. One, you got a lot of people within MAGA who don't like this. You got a lot of people who voted for Trump because they never wanted to see anything like this happen again, in terms of military intervention without Congress, that we're not sure where it's going to lead. The second thing is, there is a big difference between wanting the regime to win and not liking how the government is going about dealing with the regime. Those are two very different things. For instance, I would automatically understand getting rid of the regime in Iran. I'm not saying there's political will for it in America. What I don't understand is the president told the Iranian people, told the American people, I'm not here to change the regime. Then how does anything get better for the Iranian people? Why is that not worthy of criticism from your perspective?
Well, ultimately, it's not up to the United States to instigate regime change. That's the
I agree.
right of the Iranian people, right? So it's our
I
right to
agree.
self-determination. What President Trump is saying, and I think it's really important to remember what he said back on February 28 when he announced that he has exterminated Khamenei and sent him to hell where he belongs. President Trump said that when our operation is over, the people of Iran will have a once in a lifetime opportunity to reclaim control of their country and take their country back. That's exactly what I think is happening here. So, no, President Trump, it's not up to him to instigate regime change. It's up to the
I
Iranian
agree.
people. Yeah, and what I'm seeing here is there is an alignment of interests here, right? The Iranian people and the people of America are on the same side. We have one common enemy. That's the Islamic regime that's not only been occupying Iran, but a regime that has been murdering Americans for the last 47 years, a regime that chants death to America, a regime that is responsible for all of the IEDs in Iraq, by the way. No one ever considers the fact that there's a lot of proxies, Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis,
We
other
consider it.
Hashd-e-Shabi in Iraq, yeah, that are all
It's
responsible
very
for the
real.
deaths of American soldiers.
It's very real. One of those IEDs blew up a foot from my face. I understand very well
Oh my
what they're
gosh, I'm so
capable
sorry
of
to hear
and
that.
what they do. I'm fine. The fighting men
Wow.
and women did what they do best. We rely on the majesty of our military. They are amazing individuals who are capable of amazing things. Kept me alive, did everything they had to do, just like they do day in and day out. The question is
Well, thank you
whether
for your
we're
service as well,
abusing.
by the way.
No. I'm just a reporter. I was just there watching what they do. My point is this, Goldie. Before this, the regime was in place. We don't know what the situation was with the nukes. We don't know what the situation was with the missiles, but they clearly have them because they're using them like right now as we speak. The strait was open. Gas was in a different place, which matters to Americans as it should. And we were ready for a war at home over what is going on with affordability and health care. Now the strait is closed. It is a calamity. We don't know whether the regime, you can do enough to degrade it. And there are big economic reverberations, and many of us are worried that our military families are going to once again have to carry the load. What do you say to Americans who have these concerns?
So the price of oil, if it has been down, it's been artificially down, and it's been down with because of the blood of the Iranian people. It's because 90 million Iranians have been held hostage. But I want you to think about this: the Islamic regime was incredibly close to having nuclear weapons. Even now, as part of this fake ceasefire deal that the Islamic regime claims that they have made with the United States, which is false, by the way. And we can get into the terms of the fake ceasefire deal that the Islamic regime is putting out. But they're claiming that the United States has now agreed to allow the Islamic regime to uranium enrichment, basically. And I just want you to imagine, if you think the price of oil is bad right now, this is temporary. Just imagine what would happen if a nuclear Islamic regime had
Right.
control of the Strait of Hormuz. So what's
It would
happening
be
right now
terrible.
is short-term pain for long-term gain. What I can tell you is that prior to 1979, when Iran was an ally of the United States, the price of oil was down. And President Trump is a very, very smart businessman. He knows that in a free Iran in the future, the price of oil will go down, because at that point, instead of Iran selling its oil or giving oil to China, we're going to be, selling that oil to the United States or whoever else that needs.
Right. That's understood. That's
Yeah.
understood. Look, a free Iran is better any way you look at it. The question is, what can America do to motivate that? Is this the right thing? But I'll tell you something, as you well know, America controls a lot more of the world oil market than Iran ever has or ever will. So this shouldn't be just about oil. But it is definitely a very tricky bit of business there for the Iranian people who are in such a desperate position, and for the American people who are also, a lot of them, in a desperate position. Goldie, thank you for coming on. Thank you for making your case. You are welcome here to make the case as we go forward. This is certainly not the end. Thank you very much,
Happy to
Ms.
come by
Ghamari.
anytime.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.